In the quiet village of Miravale, people lived in perpetual terror of the cursed woods at the mountain's base. Children were warned, "Don't even look at it." And adults whispered the same tales at every bonfire. The woods were said to awaken your deepest fears, the kind that made grown men cry and grandmothers clutch their knitting tighter. To the villagers, the forest was no place for the brave. The village oddball, Elric, he wasn't particularly strong or clever, but he had one thing others lacked: relentless curiosity. "What's so scary about a bunch of trees?" he'd ask, earning groans and dramatic gasps from the villagers. "Elric, my boy," Elder Marla said one evening, shaking her walking stick at him. "You've got two choices in life: respect the forest, or end up as dinner for a shadow beast." Elric chuckled nervously but didn't respond. That night, as the moon hung low in the sky, he decided. He wasn't brave, just tired of hearing the same story. "Tomorrow," he whispered to himself, "I'm going to prove there's nothing in those woods but squirrels." The next morning, Elric stood at the edge of the forest with a lantern in one hand and a loaf of bread in the other, in case he got hungry, of course. "Don't do it, Elric!" wailed his neighbor Margot, clutching her cat dramatically. "You're too young to die." "If I don't come back," Elric called over his shoulder, "you can have my goat." And with that, he stepped into the woods. At first, it wasn't so bad. Sure, the trees were unusually tall and the air smelled oddly like burnt toast, but no monsters, no whispers, just silence. But then he heard it, a low, haunting voice that seemed to come from everywhere. "Turn back, fool," it growled. "Okay, who's the joker?" Elric called out, spinning around. A shadow emerged, morphing into the figure of his father. "You'll fail, Elric," the shadow said. "You'll fail like I did." Elric froze. His father had always been his hero, the man who could fix a roof with one hand and bake bread with the other. Seeing him now, his voice full of disappointment, was like a punch to the gut. "But you always believed in me," Elric whispered, his throat tight. The shadow smirked cruelly. "Did I?" Tears blurred Elric's vision, but he clenched his fists. "You're not real. My dad would never say that." He stepped forward, and the shadow evaporated into smoke. As he ventured deeper, things got weirder. His lantern flickered, and the ground seemed to shift beneath his feet. Suddenly, a giant wolf with glowing red eyes leapt out of the bushes, snarling. Elric screamed and threw his loaf of bread at it. "Take the carbs, not me!" The wolf stopped, sniffed the bread, and blinked. Elric stared. "Wait, you're not real either, are you?" he asked, his voice trembling but defiant. The wolf tilted its head, gave an unimpressed growl, and burst into a flurry of leaves. By now, Elric was exhausted. The forest had thrown everything at him, shadows, beasts, and once, an oddly judgmental squirrel. Yet, he pressed on. At the heart of the woods, he found a clearing bathed in golden light. In the center stood a crystal, glowing faintly. As he touched it, warmth spread through his body, and the forest seemed to exhale. The whispers stopped. The air felt lighter. For a moment, Elric thought he heard his father's voice again, but this time it was kind. "Courage isn't about not being afraid, son. It's about walking through the fear." When Elric returned to the village, he was greeted with wide eyes and open mouths. "What did you see?" asked Margot, still clutching her cat. Elric grinned. "My worst fears. And guess what? They weren't as scary as Margot's cooking." The crowd burst into laughter, but soon the mood grew somber. "Seriously, though," Elric continued, "fear only has power if you let it. The forest isn't cursed, it's a mirror. It shows you the fears you carry." The villagers stared at him, some wiping away tears. For years, they'd let their fears control them, but Elric's journey changed something. From that day on, the Cursed Woods became a place of courage where villagers went to face their fears and return stronger. As for Elric, he became a local hero, not because he was fearless, but because he showed them how to walk through fear with humor and a loaf of bread.